880 The Biz, where money talks. Welcome back to It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at H.Jack.Miller1.
Glad you got off for that.
Hello, everyone. This is a very cheery Jack Miller and Todd Cohen. Todd and I we have the best time talking during the breaks. We're talking about Professor Friedman. First of all, really smart guy. And a lot of what he says makes sense.
Right.
You know,
a lot of it,
but some of it doesn't. You know, part of it makes sense, but we were talking. We're both self-employed. We couldn't take off 6 months if our wives had when our wives had kids. I took off literally the day of the bris, and I don't even think I took off a full day. If I don't, when you're self-employed, if you don't work, you don't eat.
Right. I agree. I mean, look, there is no doubt that productivity would suffer. You can look at places like France. I mean, he brought up Germany. There are some places in Europe that do very well with it. But, I mean, France gets notoriously tons of vacation time. In Spain, they take off, 3 hours during, midday to go eat lunch with their family and take a siesta. And their GDPs are suffering as a result. And look,
a lot of what Friedman's. I'm not smart enough to know, but a lot of what he says makes sense. But anyway, let's talk to more practical. We have with us our next guest is running against. His name's Joe Kauffman. He is running for Congress, probably against one of the most controversial congresswoman. I think she's chair of the DNC. I don't know, some big shot. Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah, don't say it. That's like Voldemort for me.
I understand.
Oh man,
a lot of people feel that way about her. And we're going to get Joe Kauffman on the phone. A lot of people love her, but a lot of people hate her. So let's get Joe Kauffman on the phone, or maybe our next U.S. congressman from South Florida.
I hope so.
Joe, are you with us, my friend?
I am here, guys. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Joe.
We are excited. And just for the record, Todd and I have invited Congresswoman Schultz a few times to the show, and she, for whatever reason, she wasn't feeling the love. So we appreciate you being here. I don't want to think anyone we're not fair. So, Joe, you are running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's probably one of the most controversial political figures in the country, I guess, today.
She pretty much every time she is interviewed, she puts her foot in her mouth for some reason or another. So almost always there's a soundbite that can be pulled out of what she says, and it's never anything positive towards her.
So if she comes on the show and we get her to put her foot in her mouth, it could help you out.
Look, I will never use the word hate, but I do not enjoy her as a politician, especially from a district that's important to me. My father-in-law is the rabbi in Weston, where I know you're from as well, and I just can't believe, how traitorous she is, frankly, to the Jewish people, to Israel, and certain other things, let alone her stance on so many other issues that I completely disagree with. And it's refreshing to have you on the show because I hope you are able to replace her.
Joe, I think you got a vote already.
Great. Well, I'm glad you used the term traitor because maybe in years past, using that term would be stepping over the line. However, unfortunately, in the Jewish community, as I am also, a part of the community, so is my wife and my daughter. Unfortunately, over the course of history, we've had traitors in the community. We've had people that have done terrible harm to our community from inside of our community. And she is one of those individuals. When she voted for the Iran deal, she betrayed her Jewish family. She betrayed the Jewish community. She also betrayed her country, the United States. And, giving Iran, forget about the nuclear weapons, which is a given in that deal. But giving Iran $150 billion, that's insane. Everybody knows. I know, every one of your listeners know that at least a few of those billion, at least, are going to go towards groups like Hezbollah and Hamas. They're going to go towards the creation of long-range missiles to hit at the heart of Israel. Maybe missiles that can reach our shores, or to be given over to other groups that will reach our shores with these missiles. So it's crazy to give them that much money. It's crazy to allow them to have nukes at some given time. And she allowed that to happen. She could have been a hero. She could have been, in the Jewish community. We have our Esthers, people that saved the Jewish people.
Right.
She was somebody that was a traitor.
No,
a traitor.
You say that on your website, and I've heard you say it actually out loud before, that these people put their own self-interest ahead of their constituents' self-interest, and I can't stand that from any politician. And frankly, I was at the Federation main event last night, and the keynote speaker, he crystallized it better than anyone I've ever heard. And he said throughout the history, when the Jewish people have been divided, they've suffered great consequences. And when they've been united, they've done unbelievable things. And I fear the worst. And she's not alone, by the way. There are a bunch of people who really, in my opinion, have let me down in the Jewish populace and in Jewish politicians in the last year or so. And look, I'm glad you're here to change that.
Well,
that's true. There are people in the Jewish community that support her stance on that issue and others. However, those individuals, they don't have the leadership position as Debbie Wasserman Schultz does. As you mentioned on your show, she's the head of the DNC. If I was the head of the RNC or the DNC or any leadership position, and they asked me to do something that would harm my own people, maybe even destroy my people, something against my ethics, so much against my ethics, I would either resign or I would speak out against it. But Debbie Wasserman Schultz didn't do either of those things. She went along with it. And as you say, it was for her own interests. Absolutely. It was all about the money. She wanted to keep her job at the DNC. She wanted that six-figure salary that comes along with the DNC. And she was willing to take that money and spare her people and Israel and her nation, the United States.
Right.
Well, so much for starting off on a light note.
No, let's move on. Let's move on from Voldemort and get to some other issues.
Joe, let me do this. Why don't you start out, because I was going to ask, before we started about Iran, I was going to ask you that at the end. Why don't you give our listeners a little bit of your background? And then I have a question for you. Why does a young, good-looking, rising star in the world want to be a politician? It seems like torturous to me. But, I don't know. I'm crazy. Give everyone a little sense of your background. I've read your background, but give everyone a sense of it.
Well, I think the two go hand in hand, why I'm running and my background. I do counterterrorism research, writing, and lectures. I do that for a number of think tanks. I got involved in the counterterrorism field shortly before 9/11, and then when 9/11 happened, I took it entirely personal, and I devoted my life to fighting terrorism. And since then, I've helped government agencies. I've been involved in the shutdown of terrorist charities. I've been involved in the imprisonment of people from Hamas and Al Qaeda. I'm intensely proud of that work. But I also say that there's no one in the Congress today, whether in the Senate or the House of Representatives, that has the type of background that I do. And given the fact that terrorism is such a huge issue worldwide, it's happening right on our shores, I think it's entirely necessary for someone such as myself to serve in Congress, and it's a huge reason why I'm running. And I will also add, I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I want to see her future bright in this country. I want to see America's future bright. I don't want to have to tell my daughter, how great America was. It used to be. I want her to be able to understand that America is still great, and that's why my slogan for my campaign is America First, because I put this country first, and I want to see our country thrive economically and militarily. So
let me ask you a blunt question. I would imagine that tons of money is pouring into the Debbie Wasserman Schultz campaign. Do you have a shot against her? And if people want to support you, what do they do? How do they support you?
Well, I do have a shot against her. This is my third time doing this. I came in second in the 5-person Republican primary in 2012. I overwhelmingly won the primary in 2014. This time, definitely, we have a great shot to win the general. Debbie, she's got herself a heavy-duty primary, Now, I don't believe, I mean, it's only my opinion, but I don't believe in the end one of these guys is going to wind up defeating her. But I think they're going to knock her down some notches. And I certainly can appreciate that, and I think the American people can appreciate that. There's a woman that ran as an independent. She was involved with the Democratic Party. She ran last time. She didn't qualify, but she looks a little more serious this time. So I think Debbie's got some issues to deal with within her own party. All of these individuals, or at least the ones that are running in the primary, they're supporters of Bernie Sanders. They don't like the fact that Debbie looked to be, totally with Hillary, especially when she scheduled these debates on, major sporting events, or I don't know, the Oscars, or whenever she scheduled these things. So Debbie is vulnerable this time around.
Right. So outside of Israel, which I know is very important to you and near and dear to your heart, what issues, like if you had to pick a few, what issues are closest or most important to you in our own country?
Well, I think the most important issue is the economy. The fact that the gap between the wealthy and the poor is the largest today since the 1920s. We hear Democrat leaders say all the time how they're the party of the middle class, that they want to teach, the rich a lesson with all this class warfare that people like Obama and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, they push that issue, class warfare, all the time. But the truth is that under Democrat policies, under heavy-duty taxation and regulations, business has moved overseas. Small business has shut down in the United States. Now we're talking about thousands and thousands of jobs that have left our shores, and those jobs were filled by the middle class. Indeed, it's the Democratic Party and the Democratic policies that have ruined the middle class in the United States and have turned the middle class into the nation's new poor. And so I want to bring back the jobs to the United States. Really, the first thing that we have to do is lower the corporate tax rate, not to allow the rich to benefit, because, like I said, the wealthy have only gotten wealthier since Obama has taken the White House. No, we bring back trillions of dollars. We repatriate trillions of dollars back to the United States by lowering the corporate tax rate, and that creates thousands and thousands of new jobs, build up the energy field inside the United States. That will also create thousands and thousands of jobs. I think America can be fantastic in the near future, but we have to make some changes, and the government has to embrace those changes.
We agree with you. Joe, we have to take a 2-minute commercial break, but before we do, could you give out your website for all those people who want to get more information on your campaign and maybe donate or join in or whatever?
Yeah, definitely. Please volunteer, donate. Our website is www.kauffmanforcongress.com. That's KAUFMANFOR Congress.com.
Joe, stay with us for 2.5 minutes. Everyone stay with us. We'll be back in a couple minutes, and we're going to dive deep for future Congressman Joe Kauffman.
Don't turn that dial. We'll be right back.
Do you need long-term real estate financing? Gelt Financial is located right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and provides 30-year terms with no balloon payment whatsoever on non-owner-occupied residential and commercial real estate. With a minimum loan amount of only $75,000 all the way up to $5 million, we provide common-sense underwriting and quick closings. We don't require tax returns whatsoever. Call right now at 561-221-0900. Again, that's 561-221-0900.
Did you invest in a non-liquid real estate partnership? Do you want and need liquidity? There's finally an answer. Quick Liquidity is a direct buyer of real estate minority interest and tenants in common investments across the country. To find out if we would buy your non-liquid investment, call us at 561-221-0881 or visit us at quickliquidity.com. That's quickliquidity.com.
Welcome back to It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
Hello Hello, everyone. This is Jack Miller with Todd Cohen. We're super excited to be with you, and we have Joe Kauffman, who's running for Congress against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Joe, thanks for sticking out the commercial break. A couple quick questions for you. Assuming you win, I want to think positive, and I want to wish it on you. How do you stop the polarization in Washington? You know, if you win, is anything, I don't want to say is anything going to change, but is it going to be the same where nothing gets done because everyone's too busy fighting? Or do we need to break down and start talking to each other and listening to each other?
Well, I can only be a lone voice with regards to that. You have hundreds of other members that have to do their part. But I will say this, that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she's a very polarizing figure. You know, when it comes to negotiating, she doesn't take the calls. You know, she's somebody that when it comes to negotiating any issue, she's someone that when the other side tries to get her involved, she refuses to take their calls. And I'm somebody that will compromise. I mean, listen, you have to negotiate. You know, you're being paid to negotiate. You are the servant of the people. It's not the other way around. And that doesn't mean that you always compromise, because you can't compromise your ethics.
Gotcha.
You know, if it's against your ethics, if it's against what you believe in, you walk away. However, if you could get most of what you're asking for in a negotiation, then maybe you do compromise. But she's somebody that's so polarizing that it's never going to happen with her.
Now, I apologize. I'm just going to bullet these out because I have so many, and we only have like 5 minutes, but you're such an interesting guy. You've gotten, I think, an unbelievable amount of endorsements, and I would encourage everyone to go to your website. Everyone from Herman Cain to Jackie Mason did a piece for you. How did you get all these national figures to endorse you?
Well, Jackie Mason happened through a mutual friend. So somebody set that up. We had lunch, and I actually went over to Jackie's house in Palm Beach, and he cut a video for me. But a lot of the other videos, they happened at conferences. I mean, certainly everybody knows who Debbie Wasserman Schultz is. You know, it's not Joe Kauffman. You know, I've made a name for myself. But certainly Debbie's made a much bigger name.
I got you.
And that's not necessarily a good thing.
They want her out.
For her.
They want her out.
But they absolutely want her out.
What do you think of criminal justice reform? Are we over-criminalized as a country?
Well, I think absolutely. Definitely in the case of with regards to the drug war. You know, I don't believe in incarcerating young people for doing drugs. I think a lot of the money that goes towards the prison system, and listen, I support the police 100%. I support all the facets of law enforcement. I don't know that anybody supports them more than I do. But when it comes to financing the prison system, I think a percentage of that money needs to go towards places like drug rehab clinics. I think it's an issue, especially today, that America needs to come to grips with. We're losing way too many young people on drugs. It's an epidemic. I believe it's a disease. I lost my little cousin who I grew up with. He was 20 years old when he died of a drug overdose. Wow. And it's immensely personal to me. I'll tell you, he just really quick. He was a hockey player. Scouts were coming to see him. He broke his arm. The doctor prescribed oxy for him. And he got hooked on it, and he wound up dying on something else, much harder. Unfortunately, my mother, who has multiple sclerosis, unfortunately, I see that she gets prescribed oxy all the time, and I think there's something insane about that. So I think it's a little backwards, the system, and we have to stop incarcerating young people for drug use.
What's your view on the legalization of marijuana?
Well, I personally support legalization of medical marijuana. Also, it's a personal issue. My mother, as I said, she has multiple sclerosis.
Right.
She's taking oxy to alleviate her pain. Now, how is it that oxy is legal and and using marijuana at least for medicinal purposes, is illegal when the two are night and day
right.
in the amount of damage that they do. I mean, oxy is so much harder and does so much more damage than marijuana ever will do. But she would like to use marijuana to alleviate some of the symptoms. Many studies have shown that it alleviates symptoms in multiple sclerosis. And for that reason and others, I support it for medicinal purposes. For those with debilitating diseases that need it, I support it 100%.
What do you think? We only have 2 minutes left, but since you brought that up, what do you think of the government's program where they're coming down on businesses who deal with the marijuana businesses? For example, you can't, if you have a medical marijuana dispensary, you can't bank. It's called Operation Choke Point or Chokehold. Are you familiar with it at all?
I'm not very familiar with it, but
okay.
I will say this:
a question.
that I don't want to see widespread pot usage. I think that it needs to be, if it is going to be legalized, meaning for medicinal purposes, it has to be regulated. There's I don't want to see the problems that maybe other states have gone through. So there needs to be regulations, common sense regulations, and they need to close some of the loopholes.
Joe, I appreciate your time. I can't thank you enough. We wish you a ton of luck.
Yeah.
We have a minute and a half left. Give everyone again your contact information, how they help you, and give everyone a pitch why they should go and support you and work hard and give their money to you.
So it's Kauffmanforcongress.com, KAUFMANFOR, Congress.com. I appreciate everybody's support. Go to the website. Please donate. Volunteer. Even if you're in another state, you can volunteer your time on social media and things like that. No, we need a change. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she hurts a lot of people. She, when she says things like that the Jews of 1939 are comparable to the Syrian refugees, many of which are causing havoc around the world, I think that's offensive and disgraceful. So if you feel that things like that are over the line, then please come and support me, because we need a change. We need somebody that's gonna sit down with the other side, maybe not always agree, but at least sit down with the other side and get things done.
Future Congressman, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And
thanks, Joe.
Good luck in the campaign, and check him out on Twitter. And he has a big smile. It makes me smile. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see everyone next week. Take care, everyone.
That's it. We hope you enjoyed our show. Don't forget to tune in next Thursday at 3 o'clock on 880 The Biz. Check us out on hjackmiller.com. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
You got to turn